What's happening, guys? Sean, Leslie Lover Dummies. So there have been some instances in last little while of people blowing their regulator caps. So I'm just gonna go through it quickly. How you can prevent this. So the bypass came about because people were blowing their regulator caps. So the original problem was, in search of higher power, we were, I don't have the right Allen keys here, but this is your adjuster, your velocity set screw here. People were over adjusting this. And what that was doing is, we're gonna open this guy up. That screw, you guys probably already have your marker and you already know what all this stuff looks like, but we're gonna show it anyways. The velocity adjuster has a point on the end. That point is designed to focus in right on this point right here. So you tighten this down, you tighten it down, and you're forcing it. You look at this cap. You are putting all that force, you're focusing it right in the center of this cap. And if you look down the sides here, how it's actually attached is a very little material actually securing it. So look inside there, you can kind of see that ring, inside ring, right there. That's all that's holding that thing on. So the bypass came about so that when you did the bypass, this piston, instead of it focusing all its energy right on that set screw, what it does is actually bumps up right against the bottom of the cap like this. And it should meet it squarely, just like that. Yes, there's no O-ring on that right now. This is just a demo model. So the number one thing you guys should be doing, I'm going to demonstrate it here. Make sure this cap is on straight. And I can tell you, it's very easy for it to go on crooked. Straight. These are very fine threads. I managed to get it straight again. Actually, just prior to me flicking on the camera here, I tightened it in and it is that easy. Okay, and here we go. See that? It's threading pretty easy, but it's not straight. It is not straight, guys. You have to pay very close attention to that. And if you don't, when this little piston slaps up against there with whatever output pressure you're sending through your marker, it's gonna bust that sucker right off. Doesn't matter how much Loctite you put on it. But you should be putting a dab of blue removable Loctite, and just a dab, you don't have to cover this whole thing when you tighten this down. You shouldn't have a problem. I have never blown a regulator cap. I've blown a regulator, but that was from doing dumb stuff like this, where I've been drilling holes and such all over the place. That blue Loctite is important. Now, if you remember, your marker came installed with one of these guys from factory. Now, even in factory form, guys, this is the lock for the cap. A factory marker with a factory adjuster can also back the cap out. And the reason is every time this marker is cycling, that piston's moving up and down and it causes vibration. So blue Loctite. And the other thing is, so most people are removing the guide bar for the tank. So normally the guide bar is extended out here and it fits underneath this and then a screw goes through. You don't ever want to run this without the guide bar. Or if you're going to, you need to install a spacer in between here. Do not tighten a screw down like this and put any tension on it. You can see what's happening inside that window there. I am putting force on this flimsy top cap, and this alone, without any spacer underneath, will break your cap off. That's about as simple as it is. And I'm telling you right now, the biggest thing you guys probably are missing is this has to be straight. I do not Loctite mine. I'm pretty vigilant about every time I just go to fire my marker, I give it a twist. And at the same time, I've never found it to actually be loose. I don't know what everybody's doing out there. I can only assume, just based on what I'm doing and what kind of issues I run into, but cap straight, dab a blue Loctite, or use your fork, but not on its own. Have a spacer under here, or leave the factory guide bar intact. It is the spacer originally that is installed on your marker. And just one brief other thing while I got you here. It was talked about deepening, so threading these threads actually deeper. And you can see here, I actually did that. And Mike, from the Facebook group, you were correct. I had to actually go dig my tap out to go see what it was. M22 by 1 is the thread, this cap thread that's in here. So I threaded it deeper. Factory cap, it will not go down any deeper, regardless of how deep regardless of the depth that you extended the thread in the Regulator. Now, I'm sure if I chased maybe the thread on here as well, I probably could. That may be more difficult than it would seem. This cap is steel. There's not a lot to hang on to. So there's that. And one other thing that somebody had talked about was putting a plug on this, essentially. So that was the original reason I actually chased that thread down a little deeper, is because I used this plug. This is an M22 by 1.0. It is a stainless steel faucet to garden hose adapter. Well, in this case, it's to NPT adapter. So I can't remember what the thread size on this side was, but you can see here. Again, you just got to make sure it goes in straight, and it's not. So I got to make sure I back it out there. There we go. Now you can see how much deeper that went in. I could thread it all the way down. I tried my damnedest to get a seal in that newly cut thread. I tried tape, I tried pipe dope, I tried Loctite. I could not get this thread to seal. I believe if you drilled it and tapped it NPT pipe thread, you probably could get a seal because of the taper effect. So there's that. But what I did find was easier than doing all of this and finding a tap and finding this adapter piece. I mean, little things like this all start to add up. This tap was like, I think $25 from China, of course. I just bought a cheap one because I didn't know if this was going to work. And I'm glad I only spent $25 and not $75 for a high-speed, fancy domestic tap. It was easier just to drill. You can see I just drilled through where that 14 millimeter hex usually would be. You guys, there's going to be an easier option than doing all this. I understand some of this stuff I did, it was long before anybody was even interested in the M17. And I don't have all the tools or the machines or the know-how to do these things. There are some new heat cores coming. And I think one hopefully will be here shortly so I can give it a whirl. It deletes most of this stuff that I just went through. So your piston here, this cap, the PRVs, all gone. I mean, there shouldn't be any worry of any failure. besides maybe the heat core, but I mean, you guys, you have no idea how thin some of the areas are in this, and this is from the factory. This end right here, there is not much material, because on one of these, when I was drilling, I just touched the end here and it deformed the back and caused a leak. Even here, when you're doing the drilled mod, there's not a lot of room in here from the factory. And all this, it does hold together, so I don't think that's a concern. Moral of the story, lock tight your caps. Make sure they're straight, or use your fork in the appropriate manner with a spacer, or just keep the factory guide bar in place, and you shouldn't have any problems. Hopefully it answers some questions, and it just shows you a couple of the minor things that I've been kind of slugging away at over the years here. So on to the next.